Peace, my friends. Hope all is well. Back with you guys again for another video, and actually the beginning of a series, which I had mentioned to a lot of my friends, and we will be doing. It's an important topic of the Messiah. Okay, the series is going to be called Messiah ? Yeshua ? Is it a yes? Is it a no? Is it a maybe? And we will find out. Today will be the first part and see how far we get. There's a lot to discuss regarding this topic. We will be discussing, mostly we'll be going through a lot of things that are agreed upon with the topic of the Messiah. And for that, we'll mostly use the Rambam's legal code and a lot of the understanding of what the King Messiah is supposed to do with that background. Now, why am I doing this? I a lot of times I see what's going on. I'll see a lot of people say a lot of things about the Messiah, and a lot of people would joke, and poke fun about Jesus and his messianic claims, or whatever. The concept of the Messiah is a lot of times it's very much misunderstood, and the people who talk about it are a lot of times some of the ones who know the least about it. It's a very vast topic, and there's a lot of information and a lot of disinformation, a lot of erroneous ideas that fly around, and this is how things could get very difficult. For the last 2,000 years, what we know about the concept of Messiah, as is known amongst the traditional Western world, is the Christ, the Anointed One, is through the eyes of Christendom, of Christianity, and its views. It's theology and what they think the Messiah is. I have some pretty detailed notes that I want to go through tonight, and you guys bear with me. But like I said, I think this will be very, very sobering. We'll get to see a lot of things, and the only thing that matters is what the Torah, what the Hebrew Bible and its sources, right? The historical and religious context. I always say this: the historical and religious context of the Bible. What is it? It's a Jewish background within Judaism, not Christianity. So what the church fathers have to say, or what Christianity or whatever philosopher has to say, is of no consequence. What matters is the historical and religious context of the Bible, which is a Jewish one. And with that being said, I wanted to share a few other things. Countless millions of earnest believers have entertained religious notions about Jesus. But what about the religious notions of Jesus? Okay? And that's what we were just talking about, the religious background of Jesus. He wasn't a Christian. He was a religious Jew. And so why is this so neglected and misunderstood? And we can ask, is it because people are being willfully ignorant? I would say that the willful ignorance are a small minority. Most are well-meaning folks. But we all know that well-meaning people with good intentions, it doesn't get the job done. Most of folks that fall into this camp are people who are products of their past generations, and a watered-down version of that. People are many times captives of their respective faith traditions, and many do not have the courage or knowledge to know how to begin a journey of this kind, or where to even start. Fear and obscurity drowns out the attempts of beginning this journey. It's too much work, and folks have become complacent, very unspiritual, and material seems to weigh them down. One German scholar, Peter Slojek, hit it on the nail when he said of modern Christianity. He said, "It is not based on the imitation of Christ, but on the imitation of the imitation, on legends of Christ, the myth of Christ, the dogma of Christ, the idealization of Christ." End quote. You see, my friends, and this is kind of what we're talking about. You know, the vast majority of what we know of the Messiah comes through to us with this background, through this lens, through this outlook, which is through the Christian lens. But let us get right into our topic. The Messiah, who is he? What would he do? You know, does Jesus fit the mold? The answer to the age-old question is usually a simple yes or no, depending on who you ask. But simple is far from the truth to this topic. It's not simple, nor is it a yes or a no. It's way more complicated. It's way more complicated than that, and I hope by the end of this series, we will leave here with a more refined understanding on the concept of Messiah, his mission and qualifications. The enigmatic figure known as the Jewish Messiah, God's anointed, is one of the most hidden and misunderstood concepts in all of the Torah, and all of the Hebrew Bible. The Messiah has been understood for the most part, as we said, only via the Christian worldview, as a coming divine redeemer-like figure. But taking the depth and the breadth of the Torah outlook, its hashkafa, that view is lacking. What does the term Messiah actually mean, and where does it come from? I went to a Chabad article, and we read this concerning Chabad Lubavitch. It's a Hasidic sect within Judaism, and within this article, you can find it online. It says this concerning the Jewish Messiah, the Mashiach. It says, Mashiach is the Hebrew word for Messiah. The word Messiah in English means a savior, or a hoped-for deliverer. The word Mashiach in Hebrew actually means anointed. In biblical Hebrew, the title Mashiach was bestowed on somebody who had attained a position of nobility and greatness. For example, the high priest is referred to as the Kohen HaMashiach, the anointed priest. End quote. Okay. Within the levels of Torah understanding and how this concept has been used throughout the corpus of Jewish sources, Messiah can mean more than a few things. Again, within Christianity, we only know the Christ, the Messiah, for meaning a redeemer, a person, the person of, and though it's a person, it's the person of Jesus. This is the only way this concept and this word has been understood for the most part. Okay, and so it already carries a baggage, but the word is way more nuanced than that, and we have to know it from the beginning in all of its interpretations and all of its understanding. So within the Torah and all of its sources, the Hebrew Bible and all of its sources, Messiah can mean an anointing on a rock, an anointing on a building, an anointing on a person. Okay, so it could do all these things. It could also mean a time period. Many times within the sources, you'll see that the concept of Messiah can also be meaning to the Messianic period, the Messianic era. Okay, a process. It could also mean within many Hasidic Kabbalistic sources, we know it as a Messianic force or a soul spark within human beings. On a more traditional note, Messiah means the anointed king of Israel. So the king of Israel was a Mashiach. He was the Christ. King Saul was the first Christ of Israel. Okay, and David was the Christ, the Messiah, the Mashiach. Okay, and then we all know that the term it also refers to the long-awaited Messiah, which many of the prophets prophesied concerning the end of days, the long-awaited Redeemer who will lead us into the redemption. Okay? See, all these different terms can be used when we're speaking about the term the Messiah or the Messianic force, etc. All these things mean the same thing within this context. But in this series, we will stick to the person of the Messiah, as not to confuse the long-awaited Messiah of Israel who will lead Israel and the world in the redemption, the King of Israel, the Son of David. We will try to use an agreed upon background as to the Messiah's mission, the who's, the what, when, and where. And for this, we will use the Rambam's checklist, the Maimonides. Maimonides in his Mishnah Torah says concerning the Messiah, son of David. Okay, this is the checklist as to his mission and what are the for sure things that we need to know about the Messiah, the King Messiah, the long-awaited Redeemer, who he will be. This is a for sure way for us to know. And the Rambam does a good job of pointing this out to us. It says like this: if a king will rise from the house of David, okay, so he's a king of Israel, can't be the king of Norway or king of America or anything like that. He has to be the king of Israel, of the house of David. He has to be of David's lineage, okay, through David, Solomon, etc. It has to go from father to son. All right, it's a paternal line. Only a paternal line. This is the way Torah law works, Jewish law. If a king will rise from the house of David who diligently contemplates on the Torah and observes its mitzvot are its commandments. Okay, so he's not only a Torah scholar, the king of Israel, he also is observant of the Torah, so he's righteous. He's observing it, he knows it, he's learning it, he teaches it. It says, who diligently contemplates on the Torah and observes its mitzvot, its commandments, and as prescribed by the written law, the written Bible, okay, and the oral law, okay, the oral traditions that are intimately connected, that were also revealed to the children of Israel, as David, his ancestor, as David, his ancestor did. This Messiah, this is the person we're talking about, this Messiah will compel all of Israel to walk in the ways of the Torah. He will teach the Israelites within the will of God, okay, which is the Hebrew Bible, and rectify its breaches in its observance. So if there was observances that were lacking within the community throughout history, he will be able to fix those. This Messiah will be able to fix those and teaching the people how to walk therein. If there's any disagreement or some difficult thing that the rest of the sages cannot figure out, he will be able to, together with the other judges, will be able to fix that breach. Okay, and he fights the wars of God. These are all the things that the Messiah, that we know for sure. If he does all these things, we know he's the Messiah. He says he will rectify the breaches in its observance, the Torah, and fight the wars of God. And he fights the wars of God. We may with assurance consider him Messiah. Meaning, if he were to do all these things, if he's a king from the house of David, who knows the Torah, teaches the Torah, and observes its commandments that are in the written Torah and the oral law, just as David did, he will compel Israel to walk in the ways of the Torah. So he'd be a Torah teacher, okay, bringing people into Torah, fix the breaches in its observance, and fights the wars of God. We may with assurance consider him to be the Messiah. So if the person were to do all these things, he can be considered to be a potential Messiah. You can be okay to consider him a potential Messiah. All right? It doesn't stop there. It says, Rambam continues. He says, if he succeeds in the above, everything we said above, and he builds the temple in its place, and gathers the exiles of Israel, brings all the Jews back into the land, then we will know for sure that he is definitely the Messiah. He will then improve the entire world, okay, motivating all the nations to serve God together. As Zephaniah 3:9 states, I will transform the peoples to a pure language, that they will all call upon the name of God and serve him with one purpose, that they will all start believing in the one true God, the God of Israel, the creator of heaven and earth. That's in Laws of Kings 11:4. This is our checklist, our guide to knowing for certainty two things: the potential Messiah, if he does certain things, and if that potential Messiah continues and fulfills the rest, we know he for a fact is the Messiah. Okay? Amazing stuff. Now, remember that this is a checklist, but we also know that this topic is not simple. Why do I say that? Because this same great sage, the Rambam, he is one of the greatest sages that is known in Torah Judaism. Okay, not many have as much merit and are as known for good reasons as the Rambam. His work is unparalleled. But I must say this: the Rambam is not the end in all matters concerning the concept of the Messiah. He's not. He did not delineate all the opinions, and he did not discuss everything. He just gave us a baseline understanding of what we can know for sure if there was a Messiah. But there's a lot of things that he didn't allude to. He didn't bring up. There's a lot of things that other sources, various sources, ancient, more modern, whatever, can disagree with certain things that the Rambam has said in this same work. And I'm going to point to one of the things that he says. Not necessarily there, but here. For example, the Rambam in the same work, in the same book, Halacha 4, this is a place where you can find it, he says this: if he, speaking about the potential Messiah, did not succeed to this degree, to the degree of fulfilling all these things, or was killed, he is surely not the Redeemer promised by the Torah. Okay, so the Rambam says that if this potential Messiah has been doing all these things, but he does not succeed in completing it all at once, or was killed, then we know for a fact that he's not the promised Redeemer promised by the Torah. And with this, we will tackle our first issue in this series. Okay? Rambam seems to say that the potential Messiah cannot die or be killed before he fulfills the whole of his mission. Now, it must be stated that my personal opinion, or what one source says, in particular the New Testament documents, does not matter and could be seen as a bias if we set it as the foundation. It is not the foundation of Torah matters. What truly matters in this topic is what the Torah and its sources has to say. The written Torah and the oral Torah. In the words of Rabbi Shlomo Majetsky, Lubavitcher, he says, the definition of Jewish belief is that which is written in Torah. That defines Jewish belief. This possibility, he says, this is Rabbi, he says, this possibility that Mashiach comes, that the Messiah comes, and after his coming and revelation, there is an interruption. And then he completes the process later on. This is found in a number of places in Torah. Let me just mention a few. He's going to mention a few. One is in Midrash Rabbah, Shir HaShirim 2:22, on the verse Dome Dodi Le Tzvi. And the Midrash says like this: just like a deer is revealed and hidden, and again it says, just like a deer is revealed, hidden, and again revealed, the rabbi says, I guess it means that when it runs between the trees. You see it, and then you don't see it. And that's what happened. That's what happened with Moses, our teacher in Egypt. He came and then he was concealed for a few months. There are different opinions about how many months. And then he was revealed again and took the Jews out of Egypt. The Midrash concludes the same thing will happen with the Messiah. He will be revealed, then he will be hidden, and then he will be revealed again. In fact, the Midrash says that when he will be hidden, it will be a very difficult time. There will be people who will stop believing in him because of that, and that ultimately he will come. This message is also in Rashi, the commentator, in the book of commenting on the book of Daniel 12:12. The verse says like this: Ashrei ham hachim. Fortunate are those who will wait for Messiah. Rashi says this is not talking about people in general who wait for Messiah. Fortunate are those who will wait for Messiah after he is revealed, and then he will be hidden and then revealed again. In that in-between time, fortunate are those who persevere in their faith, in their emunah. In fact, Rashi says that this is brought down in the prayer, in the Siddur, in Yotzer for Parshas HaKodesh. It says the same thing. Messiah will come, be revealed, then he will be hidden and revealed again. It's also found in this week's Parshas Shmos. Rabbi Rabbeinu Bakia says at the end of the Parsha, he says like this: Moshe Rabbeinu came, then he was hidden, and then he came back to take the Yidden, the Jews, out of Egypt. And he writes that the same will be with the Messiah, as it says in Kamei Tzeis Cham Ha'em Eretz Mitzrayim Yunufalaos. This redemption will be similar to the redemption of the times of Egypt. The Chassam Sofer, another great rabbi, one of the greatest masters of halacha in our recent generations, also wrote in HaSefer, the book Toras Moshe, on this Parsha Shmos. At the end of the Parsha, he says that the fact that Moses was gone for 6 months was a very big test. The same will be in Biyeme Mashiach Tzidkenu, with Messiah, our Redeemer, the righteous Redeemer. It says like this: in the days of Messiah Tzidkenu, he will be concealed after he is revealed. And he will need special assistance from Hashem to stand up to this test. And we will need special assistance from Hashem to stand this test, the fact that he is hidden after he had been revealed. As mentioned before, the Arizal, the great Kabbalist in Sefer Shar HaGilulim, one of his works, also says the same thing, that he'll come and like Moses, our teacher, he will disappear, go away, we won't have him. Then he'll come back and take all the Jews out of exile. End quote. That's Rabbi Shlomo Medzetsky in a preface to Mashiach, setting the record straight in a magazine called Mashiach and Geula. Okay? I wanted to say that because this is important, that there are various sources that say these kind of things. And Rabbi Medzetsky just quoted tons of sources there. Okay? Now, we don't know what it actually means to be hidden. We don't know exactly how long he will be hidden. That's left, there's debate on how long it could be. Okay? We don't know what the cause of his hiddenness is. So there's a lot left in obscurity. When we speak about the Messiah, we must ask the question, even when reading the Rambam, which Messiah are we talking about? Now, a lot of people may be like, what? What do you mean, which Messiah? What's going on here? In Torah thought and the sources, there is at least two main Meshichim, Messiahs, more than one. They are known as Mashiach ben Yosef, Messiah son of Joseph, and Mashiach ben David, Messiah son of David. Rambam and many others, when speaking of the final redemption, will only specify one of them, Mashiach ben David, and this is for obvious reasons. But it is known amongst the rabbis, the sages, the Hasidic masters, the Kabbalists, that there will be no Messiah ben David, without the work and mission of the first Messiah, Mashiach ben Yosef. He is the foundation, the throne of where Messiah ben David will sit. And this first Messiah, Mashiach ben Yosef, is prophetically reported to have an appointment with death, according to the prophecies. He will be killed while engaged in the mission that God has set for him. Various sources can be evidence to this fact, and we will share a few to make this clear. Okay, so now we will begin to share some of these sources that speak about the fact that Messiah can die. This is a real thing. That the Messiah, there's messiahs in every generation. There's people who hold characteristics. There's people who hold high levels of the soul spark of Mashiach ben David and Mashiach ben Yosef, and they're not the culmination. They're not the totality of that. They're not the last one, but there's people who feel this capacity and pass on. These sources are speaking about the long-awaited Messiah or Messiahs, the two main ones. Quoting first from the Gemara in the Talmud, in Sanhedrin 98b, we read this. Said Rav Nachman, if Messiah is among the living, he is like me. He says, Rav Nachman, he is like me, as it states, and their ruler in their midst. Said Rav, another rabbi, if he, Messiah, is amongst the living, he is like Rabbeinu HaKadosh, our holy Rebbe, Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, the compiler of the Mishnah. If he's among the dead, he, the Messiah, if he's someone among the dead, he is like Daniel Ish Hamudus, meaning Daniel, the most beloved man, Daniel, the prophet of the book of Daniel. Amazing. It says that if he is someone from among the dead, then the Messiah will be someone like Daniel. There it is. I have a commentary on this passage of the Gemara by Rashi, by the famous Rashi. It says like this. Rashi says in his commentary, he says, if Rabbeinu HaKadosh says, if Messiah is one of those who are alive now, he is certainly Rabbeinu HaKadosh, for he suffers terrible afflictions and is a perfect chassid. A chassid is a righteous man of saintly character. As described in Bava Metzia, tractated in the Talmud 85a. If he is one of those who have already passed away, he will be like Daniel Ish Hamudus, who endured great suffering in the lion's den and was a perfect chassid. According to this interpretation, the word like is not precise, for Rav was not merely describing Mashiach and citing an example, but rather was actually identifying Messiah himself. Alternatively, this can be explained according to its literal meaning. If there currently lives someone who resembles Messiah, it is a person like Rabbeinu HaKadosh. If he's among the dead, then someone like Daniel Ish Hamudus. Incredible. All right. It gave some more examples. Some more characteristics and details concerning the Messiah. He seems to say for both examples, the one from among the living and the one from among the dead, that he will be someone of great suffering. And he will suffer a lot in his life. This is why the Mashiach is called the suffering servant. This is what the sages, these rabbis, are hinting towards. The sages are not clear which Messiah it is who will be killed or die here in this Gemara. It's shrouded in mystery. I'll move on to another source. A source called Sideh Chemed, Volume 7, page 2984. We read this. We are obligated to believe in all the Agados. The Agadah are the Talmudic non-halakhic, so non-legal codes, passages containing parables and exegeses stated by the sages of blessed memory, even those which appear contradictory. Okay? So this work says we are obligated to believe in all the Agados. Okay? All the Agadah. The fact of the matter is that all of the conflicting Agadah are true, since both statements are words of the living God, and thus both must be reconciled. There are two possible ways the redemption may materialize. It may come about in a very natural manner, in the event that the Jews are not meritorious. Regarding this possibility, the Gemara in Sanhedrin 98a foretells, quoting a prophecy in Zechariah, that Messiah will arrive as a poor man, riding on top of a donkey. If this will be the case, there must be one distinguished tzaddik, the righteous person, of that generation who is worthy of being the Messiah. Should the Jews so merit, in the event of his demise, God forbid, there must be another contemporary tzaddik of his caliber who is worthy to be the Messiah in his stead. There is yet another possibility. If the Jews possess great merit, Messiah's advent will be of the miraculous and supernatural order. Thus, the Gemara predicts, quoting a prophecy in Daniel, Messiah will arrive atop of a heavenly cloud. Concerning this possible manner of Messiah's coming, listen, the Gemara in 98b, the one that we just read, states that if he comes from the dead, he is Daniel Ish Hamudus. Now we're going to share a few sources concerning the other Messiah, the Mashiach ben Yosef, who is said to have an appointment with death, okay? And that his death would be an atoning death at that, okay? We'll share a few sources. This is from the Shelah, Rabbi Yeshayahu, Rabbi Isaiah Horowitz, lived during the 1565 to 1640. His work, Shnei Luchot Habrit, in Vayeshev Miketz Yaigash, okay, page 317. It says like this: Messiah, son of Joseph, Mashiach ben Yosef, when he comes, does not come in order to establish his own dynasty. Rather, he comes to reestablish the Davidic dynasty. He will even sacrifice his own life in order to accomplish this. His blood will atone for the sins of the Jewish people. His atonement will take the form of the Davidic dynasty being restored to the Jewish people as an everlasting kingdom. Amazing source, deep. There's a lot there to chew on. Another source by Neftali ben Asher Ashuler comments in Ayala She Lucha, says like this on Isaiah 53:4. Says, the quote says, the sickness which ought to have fallen upon us was borne by him. Him who, this means when Mashiach ben Yosef shall die between the gates and be a wonder in the eyes of creation. Why must the penalty he bears be so severe? What is his sin? And what is his transgression? Except that he will bear the chastisements of Israel, according to the words, smitten of God, in Isaiah 53:4. Incredible sources. In Sha'ar HaKavanot, it is written like this: why does the Mashiach ben Yosef have to die? The people will weep over Mashiach ben Yosef because their sins are what caused his death. Therefore, when we say the daily prayer, may you speedily establish the throne of David within Jerusalem, we are praying that he not be killed. The Arizal explained that the throne of David refers to Mashiach ben Yosef, who is the throne or base power for the Davidic Messiah. Sha'ar HaKavanot 37a. The Ben Ish Chai, okay, Rabbi Yosef Chaim, a great rabbi who lived in Baghdad in 1835. He comments on the dispute between Rabbi Dosa and the other sages as to the meaning of Zechariah 12:10, a very famous passage concerning the Messiah and him being pierced through, right? He says like this, the Ben Ish Chai says, there is a dispute in the Gemara as to the reason for this incident of great mourning in the future. Some say it is on account of the slaying of the Messiah descended from Joseph, a tzaddik who will pave the way for the coming Messiah descended from David. Who paved the way for the coming Messiah descended from David. Actually, both opinions are true. The people will mourn the death of the Josephian Messiah because they have stabbed him. because it is their sins that will cause him to die. As it is written, he was crushed because of their iniquities, because of our iniquities. Isaiah 53:5. This is similar to the mourning over Yeshayahu. The people weep over him because their sins are what caused his death. Therefore, when we say, may you speedily establish the throne of David within Jerusalem, the daily liturgy is these daily prayers. We are praying that he not be killed, Mashiach ben Yosef. The Arizal explained that the throne of David refers to the Josephian Messiah, who is the throne or base power. We said that. And the Ben Ish Hai is quoting all these sources that we just quoted. That this can be found in the Ben Ish Hai, Ben Yehoiada, Days of Peace, and pages 114 through 115. Another source, and this is in Megale Amukot HaTorah 72a. It says, in the future, when Mashiach ben Yosef is killed, through prayer, he will return and live. Another source, again from Rabbi Isaiah Horowitz in Shnei Luchot Habrit. This time, when he's quoting a passage from the Talmud in Pesachim 18a. It says like this: Mashiach ben Yosef will be killed and return to life. The Zohar describes, it says, I have here, the Zohar describes how the Messiah will vanish for a certain period of time. For example, the Messiah will be put away for 12 months. Sefer HaZohar, Margolit 2:7b. It may be that, and the note here says, it may be that this disappearance and return lies at the root of the development of the idea of the Messiah's death and rebirth. But again, as we said, these things are some of the most guarded secrets. We can contemplate, we can have opinions, but it's not known. But it does say that. Now, the finer details of what will happen with the Messiah, like when he actually literally comes, we said it. These things are shrouded in mystery. We cannot know until everything kind of like revolves. We have enough details. There's a lot of sources to say a lot of things, but the exact way how will go down to the minute detail, we won't know. The Rambam, he says like this in Yahazocha Hilkos Melachim, chapter 12, he says, some of the sages say that Elijah the prophet will come before the coming of the Messiah. All of these and similar matters one will not know how they will occur until they actually happen, for they were blocked out by the prophets. And even the sages do not have a tradition in these matters, only the implications of biblical verses. Another rabbi, Rav Yitzhak Zev Soloveitchik, the Brisker Rav, explained these words of the Rambam in the following way: all the other words of Torah were given to us so that we may extract from them conclusions, practical instructions, and information. It will be like this or like that. However, the Rambam teaches us that the words of Torah given to us regarding the end of days and Messianic period were not given to us so that we may extract from them practical matters and conclusions. They were given to us solely so that we may understand them from a conception point of view. Even when we are able to clearly understand matters regarding the process of the Geula and redemption from the words of Hazal and the sages and the Tanakh, we should not come to a definitive conclusion and try to determine how events will actually occur based on their words. We are believers and sons of believers, and therefore we believe that the Messiah can come on any given day, even if it does not match the documented course of events. In the future, the detailed explanation of what was truly written will be revealed to us in a way that we can comprehend. So up till then, this is the first part of our series. I hope you guys saw that everything is not as simple as it seems. The Rambam says that the potential Messiah cannot die before he fulfills the whole of the mission. Many sources, whether in the Talmud, in the Gemara, in the Talmud, or in the Midrashim, in other Agadah and Hasidic literature, or in Kabbalistic literature, seems to say otherwise, that the Messiah could be someone who dies. whether he's Mashiach ben David or even Mashiach ben Yosef. And that's the other thing we wanted to come across. When we're talking about the Messiah, when we're reading the Rambam or reading anyone, we should always ask, what Messiah are we talking about? These two Messiahs are like two sides of the same coin. They're very, very important concerning the end of days, what we know about the prophecies. And we have a lot of secrets that have been revealed to us by the sages who were privy to these secrets. But we don't know the minute detail exactly how these things will come about. So, for example, there is a tradition of when the Messiah is revealed and then he is hidden. There's a tradition of we don't know exactly how long he will be hidden. I mean, it could be 6 months. It could be 3 years. It could be longer. We don't know. And so these things, one should not really, go here or there. But all I wanted to do, and I know some of these sources can be obscure or they're not, they're not major sources, they're minority opinions and majority opinions, etc. But what I want to show is that these things are not that clear. The Messiah could definitely be someone who has died. This is an opinion in the Gemara. It says it in various places. I could have shared more sources because there's many more. But I think this is enough for tonight. Next time we do a video, I will touch upon the fact that the Messiah has to be a king and a descendant of David. This is something else that most people do not understand when we're speaking of the topic of the Messiah, that he has to be of the descendants of King David through Solomon, through a specific line, and that this line is not maternal, it is paternal, from father to son. All right, well, that'll be our next lecture. Thank you guys for being here with me today, and many blessings to you and your families. Peace.